when they slap you with a large amount of money in your face, your feelings do change.
Yeah.
And I try not to be a materialistic person, but I do owe it to my family as well to set them up for success as best I can, right? And having kids, I think, changed that quite a bit. So yeah, the money is a part of it. I mean, I'm not gonna lie and say no, it is.
Dylan, who's on breakthrough today?
Jon Rahm, world number 3, captain of the unknown live team, and like chief defector to live this year. We're gonna see what he has to say. We're gonna hear about his upbringing. We're gonna talk about his life as a major champion. Then we're gonna talk about the decision. Appropriately, we're in Miami to hear about Jon and his future, why he went to live, what his plans are. All right, Jon, thanks for being here.
Oh, my pleasure.
I want to start at the beginning with you, I guess, and take you back to your childhood, and specifically the first moment that you remember thinking, I'm really good at golf. And I'm curious if there was like some moment in time where you had that realization.
Oh, that's hard. That's hard. I think it was 2009 when I made a jump in my golf level. Up until then, I was top 5 in Spanish provincia, with my province, which is equivalent to maybe a county in the U.S., and maybe up there as well on would be my state, but it's a Basque country. There's not a lot of people. I mean, 2 million people. You can imagine how many golfers we have, right? Yeah. So I was there. I competed on the national level, but never did good. And I hit my growth spurt that winter going into 2009. And obviously, a lot of the same traits stayed, but I gained a lot of distance. And I think when I first realized my talent would be, it was early on that year in January. There was the first national level event that we had. And I came back on the last round, shot what I think was my first round in the 60s in competition. I think I shot 4 under to end up winning by 1 or 2, but I finished hours before the final groups, right? Nobody expected me, and that was the first time I actually finished and said, okay, I know obviously I'm good enough to at least beat the people my age on national level.
Yeah. How old were you at that point?
2009, so that was a long time ago.
God, I just need to do math.
No. So that was 14 years ago in January. So 50. I hadn't turned 15 yet, so 14.
Yeah. So you weren't someone that was like playing in world championships from age like 8, 9, 10, etc.
No. I started playing at 8 or 9 when I first touched the club.
Yeah.
And up until maybe that age, 13, 14, I played pretty much as many sports as I could, even at home. Golf wasn't my priority. It was just, I went to see who became my long-term teacher at the time, Eduardo Telles, and we improved certain things. But again, obviously, becoming a lot taller when I'm playing other sports, I got obviously a lot stronger and helped within golf, right? I think the biggest jump though was the following year. So that same year I won the national championship of my age, under 16, I was 14. The next year when I'm 15 in Spain, we had the under 21 championship. And at that point you're dealing with some of the best players in Europe, and Spanish players only, but they're some of the best. And that year I did win that tournament by 6. And that's when I thought, okay, this is a little bit more unusual than other things. So that would be the first step for me to think, okay, I definitely got.
Were there other guys in that field whose names we would know who are now pros or
Yeah, Adriano Naus and I played on the final round, and we're on the same age. So I wasn't the only one. There's definitely some names on DP World Tour. Sebastián García was also on that final group. Adriano Taegui, I believe, was playing there as well. All 4 of us are in DP World Tour.
Yeah.
Pro players right now. There's probably more that I'm not remembering right now.
And do you think that playing other sports contributed to your golf success long term?
Absolutely. It's actually, if you see my swing, besides my right ankle limited mobility and story that I have, if you ever seen high ally, I can look at camera. If you know what high ally is, Jaialai.
Yeah.
There's 3 versions we play in the Basque Country. Okay. One is with the basket hook that people know here in the U.S.
Yeah. That's the version I pictured.
Yes. So same concept, but then you can play it with your hand, bare hand. Well, you have protection, but your hand, and the ball's slightly different. And then wooden paddle. So I play with a wooden paddle. And if you see the way we do it, you kind of take like a skip step to then hit it, right? Fast moving ball as well. But if you see, it's like shoulder height. So if you were to see somebody play, you kind of get an idea of, okay, it's very similar. Like your hands never go above to do anything, right? You're always keeping it kind of shoulder level to then hit it. So I grew up playing that a lot. And then when you're not a daredevil and you don't want to wear a helmet, because you have to wear a helmet, there's a version we have with that is closer to racquetball. I mean, it's like a foam plastic ball, and then you use a tennis racket.
Got it.
Where if you get hit, it won't hurt, it'll sting, but you won't bleed, right? That's kind of, not that I ever did, but it's...
So you're doing some swinging, though, growing up. You were doing various types of...
I also did K1 canoeing, the Olympic canoeing.
I was reading that,
K2, I believe. K2.
Prepping for this, and I hadn't realized you were such a serious canoeer. How do you get into that as a kid?
So there was a club right next to... It's actually a big sport where I come from. There's a lot of rivers that a lot of people canoe on, and there's a club like literally across the street from the neighborhood I grew up. My brother did it. Pretty much everybody in the neighborhood did it, and so I joined it.
Can you draw any connection from canoeing to golf?
It helped with this association of your upper body and lower body, right? Because when you're sitting in the canoe, I mean, you're sitting pretty tight with your legs. Even though you do push with your feet, you're turning this way, right? So your hips aren't turning. So you got to learn how to disassociate upper body, lower body.
Yeah,
I don't do it on the backswing, but I do it on the downswing, right?
Okay. Yeah.
So there's a few sports. I was a goalie playing soccer growing up, and did a few years of martial arts as well. Kung Fu was the first thing I gave up, because once I got to a certain age, the classes ended at 10 p.m.
Oh, wow.
And my parents and I said, yeah, absolutely not. It's a little bit too late with all added up, right? And I think soccer was the next to go, and the other two shortly after, because I liked golf so much.
Yeah. Was there enough golf around that felt like a normal thing to focus on, or was it kind of, I don't know, isolating, I guess, to be, oh yeah, that's Jon. He's like the one junior golfer around.
No. There was more. I wasn't, up until I was 15, there was many of them ahead of me, talent-wise, for sure. That at least were proven from a younger age, right? That they were up there for a very long time. It was that 2009, 2010 when I put myself in the forefront. But all those ages before, which I did compete in the national championships, I was just nowhere to be seen, lost in the bottom of the leaderboard. But it is funny, like this golf community. So obviously it's becoming much bigger. But in my high school, or the high schools most of my friends went to, I was the only golfer. Yeah, like there was no other person that had ever stepped on a golf course.
Wow.
Yeah.
Did you love it?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Early on, maybe not, because it's so hard to hit the golf ball. Yeah. And it's a tough process to try to explain to an impatient child. Unlike other things, right? Like with other sports, like soccer or other things. Larry Fitzgerald told me this, which is true. From a young age, you know how to run, jump, catch, and throw and kick. Yeah. Better or worse, you know how to do it, right? Gripping the club properly and doing the swing and making contact with the ball, first try, never happens.
Almost very specific.
Yeah, skill. And if you make contact, you're probably making contact with the ground before you do it with the ball, right? So it's an acquired and a learned skill. So early on, you're not going to fall in love with it as much as other sports.
Why were you good? Well, like what?
I wasn't good early on. I was not good early on whatsoever.
Was it working through it? Did you like fall in love with the process of were you just a really good natural athlete? Like, what do you think it was about you that made you develop in the way you did?
So, like I said, the other sports helped. Yeah. But I've always said, and I read this in Rafa Nadal's book as well, it's that similar to him, like I was a competitor before I was a golfer. So I was loved to compete on whatever it was. So growing up, in any club, you have a junior class, right? So what we did as practice was just challenges, right? Putting games, chipping games, games on the range, whether it was we had a net on the right side of the net, so a lot of times would be try to hit a hook that goes outside the range and comes back in, or how close you get to the net, or how high, how low, do things like that, right? That was our practice, just doing games. And it was so much fun that we would lose ourselves in it and be there all day.
Yeah.
Right? That was, that's what developed me, right? I think physically I was developing, playing other sports and still growing, but I was competing against all those people, sometimes older players, trying to beat them just at that game. I wasn't solely just thinking about golf.
And when did you realize that your foot made it so that you'd have to swing differently, or so that maybe you couldn't like copy someone else's swing exactly?
I didn't know until Dave Phillips told me when I was in college already. They're like, "Oh, this is why you do these things." I'm like, "Oh, well, that makes sense."
Yeah.
I didn't know until then. My swing coach in Spain, Eduardo, is the one that told me, John, you're big, you have plenty of speed. It's like, how about you focus on trying to hit it straighter? Because up until that point, I mean,
And that's where the short swing.
Yeah, I had a strong swing, try to overswing, trying to high hook everything as far as possible. Yeah. And he said, "Yeah, maybe you try to keep it in front of you." And I was like, all right. So we practiced that 3/4 swing, and it didn't take me long to realize that, okay, I definitely had a future. Because I started with him in like November to practice that. Yeah. In January, I won that first big event coming from behind. So I went from never finding the fairway to all of a sudden
dialing it in.
Not dialing it in. I didn't become a good ball striker of the ball till like junior year of college, but
just reining it in a little
bit. Maybe. Yeah, it slowly got better. Yeah.
And then, I mean, growing up the way I did, playing golf in the high school team did not get me like a lot of street cred. It was not a particularly cool thing to do. Were you a popular kid growing up? Were you well liked in high school? Did you get invited to all the coolest parties? Like, what was your status like?
Well, no, but we don't have high school parties in Spain. I mean, this is not how it goes. A lot of people actually have their own friend group outside of the school. Very easily it happens. I was definitely not part of the cool kids, because whoever were the cool kids in Spain, at least, maybe they were up to some things that I wasn't willing to do. For the most part, we're never good in class. Yeah, it was just not the people that I would have mixed with pretty much ever in my life. Right?
Yeah.
They're good people. They're young. You're just doing some things that you don't know maybe are not good best for your future. And I was definitely when it comes to Spain, not nerdier side, but closer to. Because maybe I wasn't the one that got straight A's, but I was with a group of guys that maybe got better grades, but we were still playing sports. Right? We're very active in that side of Spain, so we're still playing sports, just not doing other things.
And what was the first step to getting recruited to ASU? How did that process start?
It's a very unusual story, right? Like, I don't know how I can explain this without offending the NCAA.
Please, by all means.
But NCAA recruiting rules, if they make no sense to people in the US, you can only imagine to us in Europe. I mean, there's no way to look at it where we're like, okay, that's right. None, right? Over there in Spain, you don't know that coaches can't contact you because you're a certain age, or you can or you cannot do it. I mean, we have no idea. I was telling my dad, I'm like, Dad, I don't know if I want to go to the US. Clearly, they don't want me there, right? Like, I was in the rankings, I was top 5 in Europe, top 20 in the world at one point. I'm like, I'm number 1 in Spain. I'm like, they clearly don't want me there.
Yeah, no,
or something then to see. Like, this makes no sense whatsoever. Until the summer of 2011, I'm playing this European under-18 championship representing Spain, right? So there's, I think, the 16 countries, 6 players on each team. Top 8 after the 2 rounds going to a knockout section. You play match play, right? So we were on the second round, and we're on the mix. We're up there, and I see somebody, I'll never forget it, on the 8th hole in Prague, Czech Republic, has a San Francisco shirt. I have no idea who he is or what he's doing, but my grandma had just been to San Francisco with her sister that summer, so I just go up to him, which I guess is legal, and strike up a conversation, right? With my limited English, I said that. I heard, great about San Francisco. I knew there's a decent amount of Jesuits there, which most of my family is. So within the Catholic religion, so I talked to him because we were waiting, and he decided to follow me. And I made par 9 at 8 and 9, and then I birdied 10, 11, 12, 13, eagle 14. And I think came with another birdie. I finished second on the stroke play portion of the tournament, and then I went undefeated in match play. Played foursomes in the morning, singles in the afternoon, and we won. Needless to say, shortly after that, I had a full ride offer to University of San Francisco. No other school though. That was the only one.
Wow. So it was a coach or a?
No, he was the head coach.
He was
the head coach at the time. Yeah, and I was very happy to get the first one. The only mistake they made is because I'm from November, they thought I was a year behind in school, like further back. So they wanted me to wait a year in Spain, which I was willing to do. And then around April, May of the following year, right, 2012, the year I wound up going to Arizona State. A friend of mine who was at Iowa State that was supposed to transfer to Arizona State decided not to do it for whatever reason. So Coach Mickelson had a vacant scholarship, and there was a man who's now an agent for golfers called Ricardo Relinque, who is Puch's agent right now. He was working for the Spanish Golf Federation, helping players get better scholarships, right? And he let Tim know about me and about my situation, and never spoke to me, never seen me play, never, I don't know if he ever seen me swing it or not. He just, I guess he saw my resume and decided to give me a chance. Got a 1-year scholarship. And yeah, we had the opportunity. My dad and I had no idea what Arizona State was. We started researching and we saw, well, Phil, first thing that comes up, and then Paul Casey, and then Alejandro Cañizares, and then Azara Muñoz, and then Carlota Ciganda. So I'm like, there's enough Spanish influence there. Multiple national champions who then became professionals to be like, okay, this is clearly a good path. Where I grew up in Spain, for people that don't know, that is closer to Portland or Seattle weather. A lot of rain, not great.
Seattle.
So when they said Arizona State is sunny, I'm like, okay, I'm gone. And luckily I had taken, I think, one of my tests required already. I had to take I don't even know. I don't know if it was the SATs or something else, but then my second test, and got approved to go in, and we had to wait for the visa. And once the visa was done, I actually arrived with the school year already started. I was a little late because of the process being so late. Yeah.
Is
very unusual. Never did a visit. I had no idea where I was going. My dad dropped me off at the airport and says, I don't know if he ended up in Japan, Moscow, Thailand. I said bye, and he texted me when he arrived there, and that was it. And that was a culture shock, to say the least.
Right. I was just thinking about how there's, whole industries built on getting people into college, and getting people scholarships and going through the whole process. Like, what would be your message to a junior golfer that said, hey, I want to play high level Division I golf?
I don't know if I'm the best example for that.
That's why it's interesting. Because
my story is so different. Right. Like, it's never too late. That's the thing.
Yeah.
I would say focus more on what school suits you best. I had a couple friends, for example, that all good players, all on the national team, that wound up going to some schools that maybe weren't the best for the development. One of them was from southern Spain, had never seen a cloud in his life, and he went to Iowa State. I'm thinking, man, you're putting yourself through something that, yes, it's tough, yes, it's great for life, but man, you're not used to being in Iowa weather.
Right.
Like, especially in winter, like you come from southern Spain, it's never below 60.
Yeah.
Like, it's, and a couple others, two of them that were from Barcelona, that grew up in a nice part of Barcelona, not that they were extremely wealthy, but they were well off, and they go to Arkansas, middle of nowhere Arkansas. I'm like, buddy,
culture shock.
Like, you are going the wrong way. I'm like, I'm going from rainy to sunny. You guys are going to the worst possible scenario from where you come from, right? So that's what I would say. I would say make sure whatever you're going, maybe don't focus so much on the best possible golf team or academic school or credentials in the school. Maybe go to the place where you think you're going to get better as a golfer, right? Because just because you're a national champion as a team doesn't mean anything that you're going to become anything as an individual, right? So that's what I would say. Make sure you find the best spot for yourself to go to.
up here, but what was bigger? Winning the U.S. Open, first major, or winning the Masters? Because it's the Masters.
They're very different, and it's the Masters. But it's almost because that Sunday, I mean, it's a win come from behind, right? I finished great, I played good golf, and it's almost due to me playing good and then Louis making a mistake that I end up winning. It's fantastic, right? The Masters, I wasn't leading the whole time, but I was in contention the whole time, and I was in the final group for a long time, and then I had the lead for quite a while on Sunday. And then you add the history of Spanish golf in the Masters, right? Joining those three great golfers that have won it. Sevi's second win, 40-year anniversary on Sevi's birthday on Sunday. My caddy and I, our number that week was 49 because I'd registered. I was the 48th player to register. Defending champions always number 1, so I got number 49, April 9th. It's Easter. There's so many things that came in together. It was my 4th win of the year. It was Spain's 10th major. Like, there's so many things that came together that made it so much bigger. And it definitely was. Plus, it's Augusta. I mean, I never understood. I always thought, oh, well, winning a major, any of them, right, it's great. And then after winning one, when I'm Augusta, and it's definitely a different feel when you're champion there. I'll walk up 18, knowing that I'd won was quite incredible.
That's right. Yeah, Scotty had 4 putts the previous year. You could have thrown down 4 or 5 putts, I think, on the 18th green, but you only took 1.
Yeah, I had to hit 2 tee shots, so we'll just leave it at that.
That's right, yeah. What do you remember from that day? Because it was a marathon Sunday, a lot of golf, and you started off behind.
Yeah, I was 4 behind on 7 green.
Yeah.
And I made birdie, he made bogey, so that was right away to 2 back. Long day. Yeah, very long day. That finishing the first round, it was just mainly see how close we can get. And I think that was my worst golf I played all week, those holes. And luckily, he didn't have his best either. So he could have taken a big lead, and I ended up only teeing off 2 back, which 2 shots anywhere is nothing, right? And Sunday, I just had a fantastic day. I mean, almost playing that course with the win that we had bogey free, it was incredible. And to hit some of the shots I hit at the time and the putts I needed to make was very, very special. It's hard to pinpoint any moment. Obviously, it's very special when I take the lead on 6, but there was many moments and shots after that made it so much better.
I mean, there were a lot of moments. I mean, first of all, like, how slow was it that final day? Because watching it, definitely the pace felt sluggish at times.
So it was. I mean, you have 2 some split tees. It's just going to happen. Everybody's bunched up together to finish before it gets dark. Actually, I mean, we waited a lot on 2. Like, we get to the tee on 2, and
that back tee box, you're just
I mean, they're on the tee, and then we're coming in, so there was a lot of weight on that tee. Not as much going forward, because I guess a couple of those holes play a little bit faster. I remember waiting up until 13 again, maybe a little bit on 12.
Okay.
But we didn't wait a lot up until then. It's just the last few holes, that 13, 14, 15, 16 stretch was very slow, but it's understandable.
Yeah, but then you have a lot of time to think about the gravity of what you're doing, maybe. Do you take that head on, or do you try to distract yourself?
Kind of why I went to the bathroom as much as I could. I mean, I'm walking 20, 30, 40, 50 yards in and out. I mean, you're not wasting some time, you're just doing something else during that time, right?
Yeah.
That's all.
It's interesting because you're up against, arguably this generation's greatest major champion in Brooks. But it seemed from the outside like maybe you're doing a couple little things to like assert yourself as the guy that day. And I don't know if this is just me making up stuff up from the outside, but
before you finish, you are making it up in your head.
Okay.
I didn't do anything. Like, I wasn't trying to do anything. I was just going about my day.
You're just being you.
Yeah, I was just I can just control myself, right? So I just going with what I was doing. Now, nothing was like intentionally done to put anybody off.
No, and I'm not implying any sort of like disrespect either, because I think you've made it pretty clear from a lot of comments how much respect you have for Brooks as a
are you kidding?
competitor. And
I mean, he's won how many professional events? 12? 11, 12?
Yeah.
sorry if I'm mistaken, it's been 5 of them are majors.
Yeah.
I mean, are you kidding? You have to respect the guy. What he's done is absolutely incredible. 5 majors in no time, 2017 till to now. This is the only one that you can think maybe in this stretch is approaching somewhat Tiger numbers, which is not easy to come by.
Right.
So yeah, you have to respect it. I mean, he's done what he's done.
Was there a moment where the gravity of it sank in? The fact that you won the Masters, I mean, can you still believe it now? Like, was there a moment of, you know, slipping on the green jacket somewhere, of having a quiet time later with your family?
I don't know if I can focus on just one little moment, right? I think I've been told before that when you win the Masters, things change a little bit because it's the Masters, and yeah, everything evolved quite a bit, right? Like especially within the public. The level of respect I got from the crowd went up, and the amount of cheers also went up, and the attention went up. So I think in every which way I could realize it changed. Yeah. The best moment I say was the next morning. Actually, I put on the jacket to send a funny picture to a friend, which then they made their my contact picture. It's not my best picture, but I have the green jacket on, so we can excuse it. And somebody had sent me, I don't know who made the collage. It was me and Sevi on the 18th green shaking hands. And even right now, it puts me off right now because like my wife and I were talking and I saw the picture. And next, she's looking at a book or something. Next thing she looks up and I look up and I'm just absolutely bawling. She's like, "What's wrong?" And I'm like, I showed her the picture, and like it really hits how important really is. Just when it comes to golf in Spain, just that, not even outside that, how important it really was.
It's funny looking back now because here you are in your live kit, and that day was sort of from the outside, you know, and you guys didn't really feed into this, I will say, but from the outside there was a sense of, oh, here's a guy from live and here's a guy from the PGA Tour, and they're going head to head. Was there any sense of that in real time for you inside the ropes?
I think the media tried to make that. I think somebody tried to make that. I never bought into it. Because again, it's Brooks, and who was behind me? Phil.
Yeah.
And then Patrick Reed. I mean, it's not like you can worry about it. You have 2 past and Jordan Spieth. I mean, you have 3 past champions and the greatest major player of the last few years. I don't think I need to be wasting my time on other possible narratives, right? Plus, I wasn't leading either. Like, I still had to beat him. Yeah.
And you had to beat, as it turned out, everyone else, too, because there was a moment kind of halfway through the round where the leaderboard started to look a little tighter.
Yeah, once they posted that 8 under, it's like, well, you know, you also have to worry about that.
Yeah.
It's not as... It's never as easy as they make it sound, right? And it's never as complicated as people try to make it. Like Brooks and I weren't thinking about where we play golf. Like there's that mutual respect. Like you know how good the person in front of you is. It doesn't matter where you play, right? So that was my position.
I mean, I think even Brooks said that after the PGA. It was like, you know, I won for me here. This wasn't like a league winning a title here. This was Brooks.
No, it's absolutely how it should be. You play golf for yourself, period. Like it's not like, you shouldn't burden yourself with putting that responsibility on your shoulders, right? If you win for yourself, things will take care of things.
We're gonna find out what the team name is.
We're gonna find out what the team is. Do you have any predictions?
Like a majestic animal of sorts. So it's like a stallion or like a bull. What's your prediction?
Something with 4 legs.
Something with maybe something with a mane too.
Something mane-ish.
Yeah.
How do you say stallion in Spanish? We'll find out. So we're here at Lib's, I guess, shoot days here, media days. By the time this interview comes out, you will have announced your team. We can see it here. What is your team name?
Legion 13. Legion 13. The 13 is because we're the 13th team, which I guess when this comes out is public. And Legion, you know, I didn't always want to go the golf route, and it was a lot of work with marketing and the creative teams. I wanted to go down like the warrior spirit type thing, and you know, I've always liked Greek and Roman history and mythology, along with Egyptian mythology, but I wanted to focus on that. So, you know, the word gladiator kept coming to mind, warrior, things like that, and we're going down this rabbit hole, and at some point somebody said Legion, and said Legion 13. And we're like, man, actually, apart from really sounding good in my eyes, it sounds really familiar. And it was for two things. The first one, comic book cartoon I grew up watching. It's called Asterix and Obelix, which I don't know if it's Spanish or not, but it's a cartoon in which Rome has conquered Europe, right? But they have a thorn on their side that is this one little village that they can't conquer because they have a wizard that has a magic potion that gives them super strength. So there's a legion in charge of trying to conquer them, but they never can. And obviously it's a cartoon, it's for kids. But that legion is Legion 13, which I understand the premise of them losing all the time is not great, but the actual Legion 13 was a legion that was very faithful to Julius Caesar on his way back to Rome to, right, to take over, for lack of a better word, to become emperor, right? So that the sense of loyalty and togetherness and being a team with one goal, charging towards winning was something that I really liked. And I think a legion is pretty self-explanatory in that sense. So I thought it would appeal to a broader margin, even though there was a lot of names that I liked. Like the Spanish Armada I liked, but that would only make sense in my mind if the four of us were Spanish.
Right.
The Matadors, that was good, but that was Sevi's nickname. He was a Matador, right? So there was a couple other names that were really fun, but I don't know. I didn't feel like it was truly me in that sense, and that's how we ended up with this. And then the Lion, Legion 13 Gemina, I think I'm saying that right. I should be saying it right. Is the actual Legion. Their banner was a lion. They have this maroon, red, and gold color, like the Roman colors. But also, my favorite football team, is a athletic club, Bilbao, and they're called the Lions. Right? We don't really have mascots, but they're called the Lions. And again, the Lion's image is pretty self-explanatory, right? King of the jungle. So I wanted to go down that route, and that's what we ended up with here.
And this will, I guess, won't make sense timeline-wise, but just for context, you're still in the process of kind of finalizing your team.
We have one player right now, and myself, obviously. Kieran Vincent, who qualified in Abu Dhabi, fantastic player. Scott Vincent's brother. So I'm glad they allowed me to have him instead of putting him with his brother. He's a great player. He's actually filled in a couple times for players in Live Golf last year when they got injured. So it's always great to have somebody with experience in the team.
And stepping back, like, how did we get to this point? Because it was just a couple years ago where you were saying you had a very clear conversation with your wife. Okay, if you had a $400 million contract, your life wouldn't really materially change. So I guess by that definition, it probably wasn't just the money that brought you over, unless it was just the reality of the money. Like, what was it that took you over the line?
You're explaining it very clearly. Now, I would say there was two instances. I think dynamics started to change, right? And there was a lot of division at that time. Mm. And yes, for me to want to change, there had to be reasons beyond the money, right? So when I said that, I fully meant it, and it's true. Now, when they slap you with a large amount of money in your face, your feelings do change.
Yeah.
And I try not to be a materialistic person, but I do owe it to my family as well to set them up for success as best I can, right? And having kids, I think, changed that quite a bit. So yeah, the money is a part of it. I mean, I'm not gonna lie and say no, it is. But again, when I said that, I wasn't fully aware that was of what I was saying, because you don't really understand.
Yes, so there's a different emotion when it's okay, this is actually, there is a reality here. You could get this massive amount of money.
Yes.
Do you think that live contracts should be public the way we, like JJ Watt, we know how much money he makes?
Oh, I mean, being good friends with JJ, I'm pretty sure he would love to be able to break the news to the world of how much my contract is.
He is a breaking news guy now, yeah.
Yeah, he is. So he has the friendships. Part of me does, and part of me doesn't. Part of me does because that way I don't have to keep it a secret.
Feel free to, you can tell us right now.
I would get in a little bit of trouble. And then there's also a point of, as stupid as it may sound to some people, maybe safety issues when you start blurring out things like that.
Yeah.
But with every other athlete in the world, you do know. So I guess maybe it's a reserve sentiment in that sense. But yeah.
Was there a part of the decision that had to do with your position in the game? I mean, you're now a Masters champ. You have 5 years of exemption in all the majors, lifetime into the Masters, etc. Like, you are in a pretty prime spot to go. You don't need the world ranking points. Was that a part of the calculation?
Yes, absolutely. Winning the Masters was a huge step towards maybe thinking about it. Being exempt for majors, knowing that most likely you can play the Masters for life and the U.S. Open at least till 2031 is, I'm set with 2 of those, right? So, yeah, it was a big determining factor. The dynamics in golf changed a little bit. I think what opened the door for me a little bit is the fact that PGA Tour and Live Golf struck this agreement.
Yeah.
So when that happened, I was like, well, we're definitely coming in together, right? There's something happening. So at least I owe it to myself to hear what they have to offer and what their vision is, right? At least I figured that I owed it to myself to hear them out. And that's why I did when the season was over.
Yeah, so June 6th, things obviously changed, but they changed a little bit in that dynamic too, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think it opened the door a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course. Not only for me, but maybe more people. Again, it did change the dynamic. Yeah.
Is there an element of you going over where you want to be some sort of bridge, and where you, like, are you trying to affect any sort of change in a larger way of, okay, well, if Jon Rahm is going over to Live, that means that they really have to come to some sort of deal? Or was that not a part of the calculation?
It's a bit more, yeah, a little bit. You're obviously aware that it could happen, right? I'm not the biggest name in golf, not even close, right? But I think I was maybe a heavy enough name, heavy for sure.
You're one of the best golfers in the world.
But it's a heavy enough name that maybe it can actually really get people to, like, all right, let's sit down and think about this, right? Because I don't think I'm going to be the last. I surely hope that things come together, but I don't think I'm going to be the last big name to come to Live Golf, right? At some point, somebody's going to think it's a good idea and they're going to do it. So I'm just hoping that by that time, we get to a point where it's coherent and there's coexistence in a way, and there's a path for people to enjoy the same perks that you have on other tours. I mean, it would be ludicrous to say that some of the players in Live Golf didn't earn the right for certain things last year with the level of golf you played. It's that simple. You can't say Taylor Gooch wasn't one of the best players, or Bryson, or Brooks. Right? Brooks won a major and proved it to you. Bryson shot 58. I mean, I don't know what else you want me to say about a guy like that, right? So, and again, those are things that I was saying before I came over. So, yeah, I hope that me coming is at least, tipping the scales a little bit for the world of golf to come together, because I do see a situation and we can end up with a great product for the crowds and have golf in a better entertainment business setting than what it was before.
What's the reception been like from the general public? I imagine you've gotten a lot of support, but this also makes you a more divisive figure than you were before.
With any decision you make in life, some people are going to be happy, some people are going to be upset, and that's what I've learned throughout this process. I got to do what's best for me and my family, and that's simple. I honestly have heard vastly more support than I've heard critics. And to be honest, the critics were pretty much the people that I expected to be critics. And maybe are just saying it because they say it, right? The way I saw it is, we think about 100% of the public, I think 30% are going to be extremely happy for me. 30%, or maybe around that number, or maybe less, are going to hate me no matter what. And then 30% are in the middle thinking, kind of in between. Some people are good, some people are bad, right? Depending on the day. So, yeah, I mean, I was very comfortable with the decision. I was aware that maybe I would lose some fans, but I was aware that maybe I'll gain a couple.
You were just in Maui for the, not for the tournament, but the same week of the tournament, I think.
Yeah, no, it's the same week. So, I saw the stories and I was laughing at it because I almost wanted to send a picture from me when that story came out at home in my backyard.
Because you weren't there. You weren't there.
No. So obviously, I won the tournament, and we loved that Maui so much. We booked it a year in advance, and we've always gone to a different side of the island early on the week. We've always gone for New Year's as a vacation, and then we go over to Kapalua. And that time of year, a lot of times those hotels are non-refundable, and especially after what happened in Maui, the community definitely needs it. So I told Kelly, just gonna go. What's the problem? I mean, last time I checked, we're allowed to go to the island. So I went the first half, and then she stayed with the parents and the kids and went to Kapalua and had a great time. I mean,
you were home.
I was home, yeah.
Yeah.
I obviously was aware that if I went to the tournament side, I didn't want to feel like I was insulting anybody. So I went home, I saw my swing coach, and enjoyed some day with my friends. But Kelly was the one that was there. But I was in Maui the week before, yeah.
What was it like seeing guys from the PGA Tour, and how has the reception been from that side? Because obviously there's complex dynamics at play there.
I only saw a few. Some people, the ones that I've seen, some people have acted as if nothing's changed. And obviously some people are bothered by it, which it's fair. I get it.
Yeah.
So,
looking forward down the road in 4 or 5 years, do you have a dream or a goal for where professional golf is?
It's hard to say, right? Because if this union that's coming together, it's not a merger, I don't even know, this partnership that's coming together, there's going to be a lot of politics and lawyers involved, right? Like, I think it's going to take quite a bit of time for the U.S. government, I don't know if it'll be the Department of Justice or whoever it is, for everything to come together, right? And really be set. So I think 5 years might not be long enough, but for the future, and hopefully while I'm still playing, I want it to be where the best players are playing against the best players, and there's a chance for that to happen. But I certainly want to see LIV Golf players to be recognized for what they've accomplished and their talents. Right? I understand it's a smaller field, I understand it's less rounds than conventional golf, but that doesn't mean you're a worse player. Right? I think it's been demonstrated last year. So I think that there should be ways for those players to qualify for certain things, qualify for majors, and qualify to earn the same perks that you can earn in other tours.
How involved do you want to be in that process?
One of the things that put me off was having to be involved in the politics of things. So as little as I can, if possible, I just want to play golf. And there's people a lot smarter than me, for sure, a lot more talented to do that and accomplish that, right? I'm always willing to give my opinion, but I'm just not going to be sitting on 7-8 hour meetings trying to figure out what's best for anybody else. That's just not, I'm not fit for that. I do not have the attention span to be sitting there for 8 hours, but I do hope it's the best for everybody, period. I hope every professional golfer ends up in a better spot throughout all this.
Yeah, and you said that was something that put you off about the PGA Tour. You've been...
Not the tour, both. If they were asked me to do all those things here, that would have been a huge negative.
Yeah, and you've been intentional about saying this wasn't about the PGA Tour.
No, I'm forever thankful. I still want to play PGA Tour events. I still want to play DP World Tour events. I've said that multiple times, right? As long as it's not conflicting with LIV Golf schedule, I'm allowed to go play other things. So I would love to be able to play the Spanish Open. I would love to play American Express. I would love to play Farmers, Phoenix. A lot of core tournaments that mean a lot to me. If I could, I would love to be able to play, right? This wasn't necessarily about playing less golf or other things. It was just a career change for me. It's a new chapter. But there's so many events that I still would love to play that if allowed, I would go and play. Yeah.
This is sort of a half-serious question, but what do you do with all that money? Jim Dreams, are you going to spend this money? Like, you had a decent amount of money beforehand, I would think.
Yes, I could afford pretty much everything I wanted before. That's why I didn't want the money to be a factor. Like I said, be smart and set my kids up, but I don't want to sound too grim here, but we are going to die. So enjoy it. Enjoy it. And what I like to tell my wife is I like to do it in experiences. So, set ourselves up to have the best experience we can on vacations and trips and things like that. Yeah. I'm sure we'll buy a couple things. Actually, I know we are, because I am buying something more for her than me soon. But yeah. Like, actually, I am that type of guy. I would have spent more money on her than myself because I'm just, when I first turned pro, the first thing I bought was an Xbox. When I made my first money, not a car or anything else, it was a new Xbox.
You get a lot of Xboxes now. If you had to look back at the entirety of your career and pinpoint, okay, this thing about me made me a multiple-time major champion, made me a Masters winner. It's because I am this way. What is it?
Just one?
Yeah. Two, if you want.
Keep myself looking up like I'm the Queen's Gambit. I'm gonna see things up there.
What are columns around this building?
I think it's a couple of things that it's a combination or they're related to each other. I think discipline, to put in the hours and work, the commitment you have to that. Those two are pretty much the same thing. But what I've always had, ever since I was a kid, that's allowed me to get to this point, is extreme confidence in myself. Right? I truly believe that I can accomplish certain things. And that's why I can go and work on those things with full faith that I'm going to accomplish it. So yeah, it's I was never the most gifted, I was never the longest, I was never the fastest, I was never any of that, right? But if I had to pick my superpower, it would be, if there's not dedication and discipline, it would be the confidence.
Confidence and commitment.
Yeah.
I like that.
It's a little bit, I mean, you don't have one without the other, but yeah.
Yeah. Well, you should be confident and based off what you've accomplished so far. So
still a lot more to go, hopefully.
A lot more to go. Jon, thanks a lot for joining us.
My pleasure.
Appreciate it.
Thank you very much.